Hi, and welcome to the Pride Road Architects podcast. I'm Lisa Raynes, and each episode I'll talk to people who interest me in the world of architecture and business. So join me and fellow lions and lionesses as we explore architecture in the den. So hi everyone, and welcome to Architecture in the Den. We're taking a slight detour today. We're talking about construction, and I'm delighted to welcome Peter Jackson from Seddon. So in the first instance, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Lisa. My name's Peter Jackson. I'm the Managing Director of Seddon Construction. We're a 125-year-old family-owned business operating in the northwest and Midlands of England, and we're operating most sectors. And we're unusual because we employ a direct workforce of tradespeople from joiners, bricklayers, plasterers, painters, mechanical electrical installers, all different types of workforce. That makes it a little bit different to other contractors right now.
Great. So I'm sure there'll be other architects listening out here and going, how can I get a piece of that? Which we'll go on to in a minute. But first of all, how did you get into that role?
So I started off by going to university, not liking it, and then getting into full-time employment and doing a degree part-time in quantity surveying, whilst working for a builder, and then progressed through the ranks to running a part of a business for another builder called Waits, and then coming back to Seddon in 2005 and just working with the current owners to grow the company. So it's a convoluted route forward, and it was never a career planned in construction, but it's been a real pleasure to work in the industry, to be honest with you. Lots of variety, lots of interesting characters, lots of different challenges, no 2 days are the same.
And so how long have you been MD there for?
About 7 years, I think now, coming up to 7 years, but worked with Jonathan, who's one of the owners, and kind of was like wingman to him for probably about 7 or 8 years before that as well. So yeah, assistant managing director of sorts for a while, and then managing director. So a long apprenticeship, one might say.
Fantastic. And so the way that I met you originally was actually through the socials, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Actually, it was just saying before this started that I decided to come off Twitter because I want to retain my job and I don't want to tweet too much about what's going on in the world right now, because it's an interesting time to be alive, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So I think when I first came to you, I was probably either looking to pitch for work or looking to pick your brains. So if there are architects listening, how would they get involved with a large construction company like yourselves?
It's quite interesting because there's lots of different routes. So we quite a few of our own developments or find sites for customers. So being with us, having a relationship with a business and being good at designing care homes or extra care or industrial units or even affordable housing is useful to us, because that's the operates where we do our own development. So getting involved at the beginning, helping us work up the feasibilities to see if we can find a customer to take the sites. And then we do other work where architects are innovated over to us, so they're already with the client. So there's two different ways to work with us. I think what we look for more than anything else is to try and create that team to make the budget work, and that's the crunch for us. Really is we're not necessarily a tendering contractor, but we are always up against the cost plan, and we've got to make the client's budget work. And it breeds ingenuity, and his architecture is important as well. So I don't think good architecture should actually be a detriment to the cost plan. I think there's just interesting ways of tying things together that makes the building more interesting to customers as well.
So strategically, if an architect wanted to get involved with you, would there be a framework or? Is there a minimum size of architectural practice that you deal with?
We do have a managed supply chain where we work with our designers and try and build a relationship on feedback of what went well, what we like to do better. We have we don't really have a formal framework. It's more about who we get on with, because we're a commercial organisation. We know how to make things work. We know what fees are and what they should be. And actually, I'd rather spend a little bit more on fees and get the design right than be tight with fees and struggle later on when delivering the project. And that's more important to us, is getting the service right now. And the difficulty, I think, really is having that, and we've been quite good at it in terms of getting good partners with us, is an architect that can win you the scheme in terms of the concept design, and having the architect who can do the detailed design be lead designer and coordinate design supply chain with them is quite 3 or 4 different sets of skills there. And having an architect that can do it all is quite important to us. And because we want to keep it all together. So that's the key. Can you do it all? Can you be the people who gets the concept right, and then the nuts and bolts later on?
So you're looking for someone who's got a track record in care homes or the sectors that you're working in?
Yeah, we're always looking for people to work with us. We have a good relationship with the majority of the people we're working with right now, and majority, I'd say, the repeat business we do with people is incredible. I mean, we've been working with the designers we're doing care homes for like 20 years. So the people that we work with, if they're doing a great job, we'll carry on working with them. It's really important that, and we want to be important to each other. So if we need a favor, they need a favor, need doing something quickly, we need a quick response to something, then, you know, we want to be the person that they're happy to drop things for and meet deadlines. It's all about service now, isn't it? I think keeping customers happy. We all have to be a little bit more responsive than we'd like to. Being planned's really, really important. But then opportunities fall and you have to react quickly to them as well.
So you've talked broadly about a variety of sectors. So you've mentioned care homes a couple of times.
Yeah.
What other sectors are you in?
So we'll build, through our development company, we'll build industrial units and distribution units. We do not so much now, but we have done commercial offices. We're into the extra care market and mostly affordable housing from a development point of view right now. It's a big chunk of what we do. And then we're also on lots of frameworks. We're building schools for the house builders as an alternative to Section 106 contributions. We've built a couple of schools for Miller Homes. We've built schools for local authorities. And we've done things like we built the extension to the Coronation Street set a while back, and we just done the fit out of the Eureka over at the Wirral. So there's all different things that we're into. We're a very diverse business, really, in that sense. So we need a diverse supply chain in terms of design as well. And
whereabouts are you operating geographically?
We're in the Northwest and the Midlands. It's most of what we do, and then we're around the country for customers that we work with regularly. So we've been down to Colchester doing a hospital entrance works in lockdown, and Northampton NHS as well, doing another entrance there for them during lockdown. And we've been around the country doing things for other customers, all kinds of works. DWP have taken us into Yorkshire. So, you know, predominantly Northwest and Midlands, but for the right customer, we'll travel.
So what would you say your biggest challenges are at the moment?
Well, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think you've got to be more planned than ever now. So the key is being able to get hold of resources, so workforce, materials, manage inflation in that process. There's 3 points of KPI really in terms of performance that I look at when we're looking at a project. One of them is the information requirement schedule. Have we got design information in order to be able to undertake the works and procure the works? The procurement schedule in terms of, have we got the supply chain on board? to be able to get the materials to do the works, and then the on-site performance in terms of keeping progress when we get there. I think we're very good at managing time when we're on site. The difficulty right now is to be able to get the design information quickly enough and the procurement done in time to maintain site progress because of lead-in periods, because of inflation, because of the pandemic and the way people are working. Being able to run a design team meeting with people in person has been impossible for 3 years. So, you know, we've learned new skills in terms of managing technology and getting information and getting people to collaborate and work together, but there's still challenges around that. So the on-time KPI is a massive one for me, and those 3 sections to it take some managing right now. And there's all kinds of different factors affecting it, isn't there, right now? So we just need to be all in it together and know what the common goal is.
Are you doing any off-site manufacture?
Yeah, we do. We have as part of our campus at Bolton, where we operate from, we've got a industrial building that we prefabricate M&E installations from. So we prefabricate that ourselves with our workforce and take it to site. So you don't see big plumbers in little cupboards. It's all prefabricated and fitted from the office area. The challenge we've got with prefabrication is, like anything else right now, is the lead-in times, managing inflation, and the competing forces with can you do it quicker on site? And that all starts from the design concept, doesn't it? If you design for prefabrication and you know that you're going to componentize a building at the beginning and you design to the system, you stand a chance. Mm. And it's got to start at the beginning. The client's got to have a budget for it and understand that all the design's going to have to be done before you start on site. And then the big challenge to that is, will they pay the fees up front? Mm. And that's where the tension comes into off-site manufacturers. All has to be designed before.
Are some sectors better than others for that?
I think there's some buildings that lend themselves more to it. So if you regularly build student accommodation, then that lends itself perfectly to a offsite, even modular. Mm. If you're regularly building care homes, we've switched from building masonry, which used to be the cheapest way, to building with a METSEC frame now. Mm. And that's because we've got to comply with increasingly stringent Part L, Part F, and Part O of building regs, where you've got to get your building fabric really good to be able to meet the building reg standards. And block work and brickwork's less predictable in terms of time and quality as that is. So there's lots of different things that are moving you into being more of a manufactured process than an on-site bricks and blocks way of building.
And how on earth are you managing inflation of building materials at the moment?
We kind of, there's lots of little levers you can use and tools you can use to do that. So you can have a provisional sum in the build contract, or you can have an inflation formula. The most important thing really is that you've got a great relationship with the customer, because when you need to keep on going back for approval for a project to start, so if you agree in the price and it goes to board and they're not quite sure, it misses a board meeting, next time it goes to board, the price has gone up. So really commit, make sure you know you're doing it. I think we need to cost plan at the beginning of the process when we're talking with customers with an inflation factor in there. A lot of people don't like that because it's the harsh reality of the world right now, but we're looking at 1% a month in terms of inflation if we're not careful. Mm. So how do you build that in? And we're also working with customers now where we're going, let's put a determination clause in for you. If inflation is going to be so much and you've got a provisional sum of £500,000 and it's going to be more than that, then let's have an opportunity for you to suspend the works or stop the work. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. Yeah. The hard thing is you don't know. We looked at it 12 months ago and said we must be nearly at the top of the hill now and there'll be deflation or leveling off soon, but there's no sign of it. No sign of it.
What's the biggest thing that's taken you by surprise?
In terms of products, It's a difficult one because everything that we use in construction uses heat to be made, doesn't it? You've got steel, you've got your plasterboard, you've got your bricks, everything goes through a process of heat and cooling. And then you've got concrete products as well. And it's, you've got all different types of conflicts in terms of what's the right way forward. We would like to change everything from clay bricks to concrete bricks. Sometimes the planners don't like that. Sometimes the client doesn't like that. But it's in theory, it's a greener product and it's a less susceptible to energy costs. What we need to have is materials that are made or available in the UK, because getting things in and out of the UK is difficult now. And when we're looking at, we said before about modular and offsite manufacturers, having something that's at least in the EU means that you've got some predictability of getting it. If it's coming from China or anywhere else, you've got restrictions with, China shut down its ports, didn't it, for a couple of months not too long ago because of another COVID outbreak. So there's lots of different factors in terms of getting materials. Everything that's got technology in it, it's got a microchip in it. There's been a shortage of microchips, so your boiler components. If you went back in time and you knew what you knew now from a pandemic, you'd be going, we need to be prepared for this, because it's not, we don't recover from a pandemic very quickly, do we? Because there's a knock-on effect to the supply chain, manufacturing, and countries are recovering at different speeds. It's just it's a real good puzzle for us to sort, hasn't it?
So we're talking in sort of middle of October 2022. So the war in Ukraine is still going on. What would you say has been the biggest impact so far?
It's an interesting one. We have a supply chain partner that does Metsec frame and plasterboard partitioning. And 8 of their fixers wanted to go back to the Ukraine to fight in the war. Yeah. And they paid for him to go back to the Ukraine to fight in the war. And that was interesting. I remember talking to the owner of the company and saying, I'm not sure they'll come back. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, when the war's over, they've got a country to build, haven't they? So there's a country to rebuild. So there's going to be if you think about what's gone over there, that, there'll be a call on workforce, there'll be a call on materials to rebuild that country. There will certainly be, I would think that there would be a push by nations to fund and help them fund the rebuilding of their country. And that'll be an impact on resources for construction around the EU and Great Britain. So we need to think about how that works. And I think there'll be companies thinking about what the opportunity is there for them to work away in the Ukraine in building, helping rebuild. And there has always been a UK leakage of talent into the wider world, because we build great professionals, don't we? We've got great architects, engineers, construction managers that all have the skills out there that will be needed to rebuild that country, as they do. In the past, we've lost our brains trust over to the Middle East and other countries, and we've built engineers and architects and builders to build the world, haven't we? When you can see that, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when the Ukraine needs rebuilding.
So is there anything you're starting to put in place in Seddon's?
It's quite interesting. We try and think about how we can protect ourselves from global issues when we're a £160 million turnover company in the northwest of England. We're not really a big player by any stretch of the imagination. The key for us is retention of staff and supply chain. So we look at, development pathways for people. Your career isn't a linear thing anymore. So we've got people who are bricklayers that are now estimators and project managers, quantity surveyors that are design managers that were once project managers. You've got to make sure that there's diversity of work and a career path for people that isn't necessarily linear or necessarily progresses in terms of being in charge and running the company, but giving them a variety of work and an interesting career. And staff retention in terms of what flexible working looks like. we've been debating a 4-day week around board now for probably 7 or 8 months, and it's going to be a focus for next year. Is that we know why a 4-day week will help retain staff and want us to, you know, attract people would want to come here, but how do we make it work? And then supply chain is massively important to us, and we've really worked hard at making sure we're working better with fewer people. So we're important to them, they're important to us. A lot on feedback and visibility of workload. So we have a supply chain portal where we publish all our work and our tenders, so people can start to choose what they want to do and work with us and decide that's better for me. How do I get involved in that rather than
how would someone find that?
So they asked to join. We had a supply chain of about 2,000 people, and we narrowed it down. So we invited everybody on there to join. Then we score them, and they're going to start scoring us next year. It's going to be interesting in terms of the performance during pre-construction, construction, and in aftercare operation of the building.
Yeah,
we score them, and then we publish stuff through. So there's all different ways we're going to get. We use the supply chain for CDP sessions to train our managers in the use of products and systems. And we've been doing supply chain seminars in terms of safety and taking on apprentices so they can grow their business. And there's a new supply chain webinar we're developing now, which is going to help them understand government grants, funding, and tax to see if we can help them. Every little bit helps them, doesn't it? So we want people to be part of our family, really, is what we're doing.
So I'm just thinking, if someone was listening who'd be interested in joining your supply chain, how would they get in contact?
On the website is the easiest way. There's a join our team page on the website, and there's one there. You click on for supply chain, you send your details. So our head of supply chain will be in contact.
Make a note of that and put it in the bio. And
yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So that people can get in contact and see if they can work with you. So it sounds like you've got a lot going on. How do you manage it on a personal level?
Well, it's not just me and a broom and a tambourine and a mouth organ. So we're not a one-man band. We've got a great team here. You know, we've got directors in charge of business streams. So we have a director for housing, a director for the property services, which is the small building and maintenance part, a director for the M&E side of the business, and we've got a chap who runs the painting company for us. And then we've got some great people around in terms of heads of departments and in terms of winning work. We've got a great team that win frameworks for us, which is really, really good and important. And everybody's got a task to do and things that we have to move us forward on. The interesting role for us is the technical manager role. Yeah, that's really interesting because that ties in with your architect and engineer network. Is that we're on the cusp of great change, aren't we, with architecture and governance around design right now. You know, the building safety bill that's coming after the tragic event at Grenfell. We've got net zero and the ingenuity we need to have in terms of material choice, low carbon in use, embodied carbon in materials we're choosing, how we're going to build, where we're going to build, how tall we're going to build. We're on the cusp of great change here, and that technical manager role we've got here is making sure that we have good management process, good protocols, and good people to work with to make sure that we start off with a great design that complies with everything that the customer wants and building regulations want, and is also buildable, which is a hell of a challenge right now, but it's exciting. It's really exciting.
So it sounds like your time must be spent in meetings 24/7.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. We never stop work, do we? So we're always thinking about work now, and that's a challenge for us all because we need to have downtime. Yeah. But it's never been more exciting, has it? Really, you start thinking about all this now, and the opportunities in front of us. It's just incredible. It's really exciting. The low carbon challenge we've got is fascinating, because when I started out in construction as a builder, you'd write your business plan around education, healthcare, and housing, because they was the three stalwarts of any government spending. Going forward, you just write carbon. It's all about carbon. It's all about how that building operates and uses energy and contains heat. And then the tricky thing is making sure the embodied carbon and the materials is really the next challenge of everything. And used to design a building in components, so brickwork, external walls, floors, then you just put a heat source in and some lights. And now you've got to consider the building as a living, breathing entity. So you can't change one thing on a building without an impact on everything else. So your thermal models, everything that you do to make sure that your building's compliant, it's mind-blowing compared to when I started off in the late 1980s, where it was just so simple.
So it sounds like your mind's whirling 24/7. How do you take a break? How do you get that downtime?
Oh, I love walking. I've got a dog, which is my best friend now. My children have kind of become teenagers and found their own place in the world, which is the bedroom with the door shut. Yeah. If you haven't got teenagers, it's a joy to behold. So me and my dog go walking quite a lot. I love being outside. I love being in nature. I like reading. I love astronomy as well. I think being able to gaze at the night sky sometimes is just a nice way to spend an evening. I always point the planets out to my daughters and they go, "Boring, Daddy, boring."
So, well, it sounds like we're kind of coming to an end. Is there anything you wanted to ask me at all?
I've enjoyed being on. I like your podcast. One thing that I think is really interesting, Lisa, is when we talk about the future of work is, your business, the one that you've, Pride Road, the model you've got there where you've created a fairness in employment, I think, where people can choose to work flexibly and around living and enjoying life as well. And I think predominantly I think you set it up on the back of being a mum and wanting to work as well. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible model. How are you finding that developing? Because I think more and more people will want to buy into that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think there's always time pressures. I mean, that's why I was asking about time management and how you kind of take time off. I think you have to be super organized and plan your time. But yeah, I mean, since when I set it up, flexible working was kind of almost unheard of, and working from home was almost unheard of. And then we hit the pandemic and all of a sudden everyone's working from home and trying to manage it. But I think, as part of Pride Road, we do look at time management and how we structure our working time so that you can be as productive as you can. And then, we have to not work for a certain amount of time, and it's switching on and off. You have to switch off, because family or demands or caring or dog walking and mental health.
Yeah, massively important.
Super important. Yeah, so that's really ingrained at the core of Pride Road. It's flexible practice for architects. And I'd love at some point to kind of take it across the professions as well, into quantity surveying, structural engineering, landscape, interior design, building control, everything. Yeah. There's a way forward. So yeah, I'd kind of see it as a blueprint to move forward. But yeah, since we spoke last, we're growing. I've got a map on the wall in the back.
There you go.
There you go. We're across England. We've got 2 in the northwest. We're down in Bournemouth. We're over in southwest London, and we're in Warwick as well. So we're definitely expanding.
I think it's the model that people I think we're a generation away from people thinking we're bonkers working the way we work now.
So we just had a bit of a Wi-Fi blip there, and I think we all went a bit roboty. So I think we need to draw to a close, and I'd like to thank Peter for coming on.
Thank you, Lisa. Lovely to be on. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me, Lisa Raynes, for Architecture in the Den. If you want to find out about franchising, check out our website, prideratefranchise.co.uk. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe and leave a review. And do get in touch through your favourite platform if you'd like to be a guest.